Hello, and welcome to another episode of Coffee and Code. I'm your host, Ashley Coffee, and I am so thrilled today to be joined by a special guest today, Joe Pace from ASICS. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Thank you for having me, Ashley. Been looking forward to this one.
Me too, me too. So a little bit about you, Joe. I love your bio here. Joe, you lead the corporate development at ASICS Ventures, where you build a new digital business unit that helps ASICS reach and engage global audiences. And your work focuses on creative, innovative experiences at the intersection of sport, technology, and culture. From launching ASICS' first virtual sport to developing new platforms in fitness and wellness, Joe's role is all about finding the white space, shaping new ideas, and turning them into real, scalable businesses that reflect ASIC's mission of a sound mind and a sound body. Welcome, Joe Pace.
Yes. Again, thank you for having me. We're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and as we get started here, first things first, I had no idea that ASICS was an acronym.
Yeah, Anima Sana Incorpore Sana. It's is a really, a mission that is fundamental to me personally. It's something that when I first learned about it, when I first applied to work at ASICS, I was like, wow, like I wish I knew that. I probably would have bought more ASICS shoes. It's like if that's what they're going for. And prior to ASICS, I really had dove deep into the world of physical fitness, mental wellness through an online yoga startup that I had. And transitioning out of that, I saw that meaning and thought, wow, there couldn't be a better place for me to work and try to reach people and help achieve that mission. So it's an honor. We're lucky to be able to reach people globally and help them stay physically active and therefore physically and mentally well. And everything that we do through my team is towards that end.
Amazing, amazing. And I feel like you've led with intention throughout your career journey. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your yoga startup that you had and kind of how that led you to where you are today.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's had a burning passion in my 20s to create a startup of some kind, and I had a million ideas and told people ad nauseum of my random thoughts. And I was at a point where I was living in LA. I was practicing and teaching yoga extensively, and I wanted to help do something that was more in the vein of sound mind, sound body as best I could. And I was like, you know what? What if I just created this passion project where I could create an online yoga service built specifically for athletes? Worst case, I'm going to learn a ton. I'm going to go in and build the whole back end, the whole front end, recruit the teachers, film the classes. Just worst case, it's an amazing learning experience. And it was that and more. I got to meet some amazing people, build a business from scratch, learn the fundamentals of entrepreneurship the hard way.
Don't we all?
Yeah, so I feel like you kind of have to do that. Your first startup is always the learning experience.
Yeah.
And along the way you get better, you build that muscle and you learn the language, you learn the strategy, and it's something that I've taken into my role at ASICS, which has been really amazing. That company changed my life and really changed my trajectory because I at the time really did take a leap of faith that like this was a direction I wanted to go in my life, and I was going to take the reins and see where it took me. And it's led me to some really great places. And I think partially because I've tried my best to build things that I truly believe in. And that's been a through line across everything that I've done.
I love that through line. And speaking of through line, you're an early adopter as well, because during our conversation previously, you're mentioning that you had a podcast before
Yeah.
podcasts were cool. And I love that. And I love pointing back to people's early adoption indicator. So bravo to you for going through that journey and leading with intention and just starting with something. You don't know until you try, right? And I think a lot of people who are younger might be afraid to take that leap. So it's nice to hear your experience from that.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was one of the attempts to get people to download Ice Water Yoga and try it. But what was really cool about it, and what I learned through that, and I'm sure you've seen this, is people are very excited to chat in the format of a podcast. And I was able to meet some really amazing, like very influential people in the yoga space through that, just by cold email, like, hey, would love to chat, hear your thoughts on what we're doing and what you're doing. And a lot of people said yes that I would otherwise would have never responded to my email. So it was a really cool way to meet people and spread the word, which was really fun.
Yeah, you don't know until you ask.
That's right. And we have a higher likelihood of a yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that context. So Shifting back to ASICS here, I want to focus on your role specifically, and I have a couple questions here about your role. Is did you create this role, or did this role already exist when you were applying for it? Because it feels like for a company like ASICS, it's very forward thinking to have
Yeah.
a role like yours.
Yeah, no, it was a new team that we created, and it really was born out of our ASICS apps division. So I started within ASICS apps, which operates our Runkeeper app and race roster, race registration platforms. And through some, I think, persuasive business planning and proposals and pitches through that team, we were able to create some really net new, interesting digital businesses and programs that did quite well. And over time, it became more and more obvious that we should just create our own team instead of kind of operating within a team that really isn't purpose built for this more exploratory white space, new product development work. And so the natural place for us to transition to was A6 Ventures, which did exist prior to our coming over to that team. But it was a really nice fit because A6 Ventures exists to build new things, A, and it's a natural source of capital to then infuse into the concepts as long as we're able to get the right people on board and create the right business model and business plan. And so, yeah, it was a natural transition that was sort of a natural progression after we sort of did a bunch of cool and successful experimentation outside of the team.
Wow. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And for those listening, I mean, ASICS, when we think of ASICS, we think of shoes. Like we never think of expanding beyond those spaces that we traditionally think of sport, creativity, culture. So I think it's so fascinating that ASICS decided to go in on investing in innovation. And I'm curious, and this is a question that I do not know the answer to. Do you see this as a recurring theme in other companies that have been around for a while as well, having a venture arm within the company, not just ASICS?
Yeah, corporate venture capital is definitely a thing, especially among peer companies similar to ASICS. They all have different flavors and different ways of doing things and different purposes. Traditionally, corporate venture capital is structured to complement the existing business. So it's external investment into outside startups that have some sort of strategic value to the core business. And that's what our venture capital team, our ASICS Ventures, does do that, not what I do. We take the same source of funds and apply them towards internal projects that are trying to achieve the same goal. So we're basically this internal entrepreneurial team that is doing the same things that an external team would do, but we have the benefit of being able to work with all of our internal parties, leverage the brand in cool ways. And yeah, we've seen it. I've seen the space evolve over the last few years. And as the world gets increasingly more digital from both a service and a product perspective, hard goods, CPG type companies, I think it's really interesting that maybe you use your venture arm to explore that world and try to
Mhm.
find a way for your brand and for your company to expand into the digital space outside of just like marketing, right? There's ways to build product and service in digital, not that isn't just yeah for promotional benefit.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen Vans advertise in Roblox, we've seen Prada, we've seen Gucci, like really expand into these digital spaces. So, on that sentiment, can you talk to us a little bit more about this exciting project that ASICS you are working on called DISC? DISC. So, tell us a little bit more about this show.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. It's extremely exciting to us. It's something we've been working on for a while. We're delighted to have it in market. It's our first video game, specifically VR game that we launched a few weeks ago. Something that we invented from scratch. The core of this idea and the reason why we're doing this is as back to our sound mind, sound body principles. We see gaming, esports gaining an extreme level of traction globally. And most of that is occurring in flat gaming. So 2D, typically stationary, sedentary, kind of working with a PC sitting down. And for us, there isn't like a very obvious way for the brand to participate in that space organically. And so we looked at gaming more generally and said, okay, is there a way that we could potentially invent or innovate in a way that combines what's working in the world of gaming and the world of sport? And potentially fill a gap and solve a problem in the market. From that premise, we did a ton of research. We explored partnerships, chatted with some of the best in the world, ended up really aligning with Meta on this idea of why isn't there a virtual sport that is sort of definitively sort of represents VR in a way from a competitive sport perspective. And so since that early conversation and building that partnership with Meta, we've taken it and started from that base idea and turned it into a game that we're really excited about and just launched 2 weeks ago.
That's so cool. And you were telling me a little bit more about it, and I was explaining it to someone yesterday where think of it as a rectangular space and you have two people on each side, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about the activity that happens within that virtual environment? And for those that are listening, if you haven't heard of what the heck VR is, which I'm sure you have, VR is virtual reality. So virtual reality, everything with that you're seeing is a simulated environment comparatively to augmented reality, where you might see a digital overlay onto the physical world. So wanted to make sure the audience is aware of the differences between virtual and augmented reality, but share a little bit more about what happens in that space, Joe.
Yeah, yeah. I'll actually, it's cool. I'll just take a step back and kind of talk about why it is what it is, and then we can talk about what it is. One thing that we saw in the space as we were developing the concept was, the games that were the closest to sport were the fitness VR games, games like FitXR and Supernatural, and even Beat Saber to an extent, where objects are coming at you. You are mostly stationary standing up with those objects coming at you, but you're moving your body in a million different directions to react to those objects and typically to the beat of a song. So it's more choreographed feeling. So what we liked about that was it was something that was safe. You're standing in a stationary space. And if you can't see your walls, then it's nice that we don't expect you to be running around. A. B, it was definitely this like intense cardio workout. It was something that got people moving, which was like very attractive to us. We were like, wow, okay, like there's stuff there. It works from a fitness perspective. How can we take this very simple idea of objects coming at you in space and you moving your body to react to them and turn that into a sport? And so that was the core premise we got to. And what that turned into was, okay, we're not going to be able, if we're going to not choreograph it and make it to the beat of the music, the thing should be coming at you because your opponent hit it in some way. It is coming at you because they decided that it will be coming at you in the way that it is, which got us back to sort of this volleying concept where you would be going back and forth. And we also wanted to take inspiration from existing games that were sort of timeless, like air hockey, which is just like super fast paced. You know what, you look at an air hockey table, you know exactly what to do. There's a goal, there's a paddle, you're smacking the thing back and forth, hoping to score on the opponent's goal. And we basically turned that into a 3D space. You have a three-dimensional cube or extended rectangular space that you're defending a goal on either end, or you're defending a goal behind you and trying to score goals on your opponent who's across from you. And it's basically air hockey from there. You can hit different styles of shots, backhand, or you can use either hand, curve shots, power shots, bank shots, corkscrews, and the back and forth nature of it gets really fast paced, really quick as the pace of the disc increases as you hit it back and forth. So I think we really nailed it in terms of the really taking that what's proven in VR fitness and turning it into a sport. And yeah, we're excited to see it evolve over time and see how people use the strategy we've given them the chance to leverage in the game to become really good and just have a really good time.
I love that. That is so cool. Bravo to you and your team for executing this. And I know a lot of work went into something like this, especially something that's so intentional. And it's not just let's create something for the sake of creating something. Let's actually make it align intentionally with the brand, with the ethos, with what the brand is meant to do of sound mind and the sound body. So I think those are very intentional things that some people forget about before they dive into creating an experience like this. Joe, I want you to pull the thread, if you don't mind, is when you were creating this experience, you really leaned on the community for feedback, which is so important when you're building something. It's the concept of build with us, not without us. So can you lean a little bit more into the community aspect here of this experience?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's core to our strategy to be authentic. I think what we've seen in the space is I think some product launches maybe suffer from this kind of like big launch moment without a core group of people behind it who have seen the process of how the story has come together and how the product has been built. And so when we announced Disc last September, our only call to action was join our Discord. That was it. We had a singular call to action. We knew we would be launching a game. We knew that we didn't want to launch a game into a vacuum. And we also knew that there was a lot we didn't know about the space. And so we knew we had a strong core concept, but there were so many individual pieces that in aggregate make up a lot of the game today that came directly from the feedback we got from our audience. And that was by design. So since last September, we established our Discord. We brought somebody on who has Sonia Haskins, who has a bunch of experience
Shout out to Sonia
with
for making
established
this
games.
connection.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, right? Like the endless connections, the endless benefit of working with Sonia, and she's really gave us, even just working with her, all of the feedback, all of the insight, all of the intuition that we, again, that building up that muscle of how to be in this space authentically came from her and her work building this Discord group. And so over time, that group has grown, and we've gone through a series of development phases with them, different iterations of the game, and they've seen it in some pretty rough states, and gave us a lot of very constructive feedback that we've implemented into the game, and we plan to continue doing that. And I'd just say, like, if you're building a product of any kind, it is ultimately for people, and it's for typically for a particular audience that if you're not listening to them from the beginning, it's going to be really difficult to put something out there that has staying power and has traction in a way that you could create without them. So for us, it's been an essential part of our strategy, and we're committed to it, right? We're excited for that Discord to grow. And when you download Disc, you can come into our community and be welcomed with open arms and feel the good vibes. And it's a really good place to be, which we're really happy about.
Incredible. And it's always on, which is
Always
exciting.
on.
So no matter where you are, you can always get into, which I think is a huge value for building that community and building a space where multiple people can connect.
Yep. Yep. And also, like, I think the other parts of it as well is it yes, it is always on, which I think is sometimes scary for brands who aren't used to that world. But if you bring on the right people and if you attract the right audience, it ends up really paying dividends, because now when somebody goes into that Discord, it doesn't have to be ASICS telling you why Disc is so great or answering your questions necessarily, right? There's a community there who's happy to do that and wants you to feel welcomed and wants you to be part of what we're doing. So in a way, there are trade-offs, right? You have to be committed to that particular direction and that strategy for it to give you the benefits of it. And at the end of the day, we truly just wanted whoever comes to this game to feel welcomed and ready to join. And it felt real. It truly, like, Discord was the only way to do it in a real way.
I like that. And I think that's a good example of like, passing trains can be very helpful. Passing train, i.e., being Discord, using a platform that already exists that you can easily use to serve as a vehicle for building community. And I think that's where some people get stuck, is they get so in the minutia of thinking of like, how are we going to do this, that they forget of like just perpetual emotion, moving things forward. So I think there were a lot of things that went into play here that made it successful. But I'm curious, whenever the first time that you were able to experience this new environment, what was that like, bringing something from concept to actual fruition and feeling that sense of unlock and aha? I'd love to hear that.
We earned that feeling. It didn't come for a while. Like, the first versions were really rough, I will say. Yeah, it was definitely not a linear path to feeling good about what we were putting out there. We started with a concept that we got in there and we knew that it wasn't going to be perfect and it would be buggy, and it was just to get a feel for some type of playable build. And we got in there and instantly felt, this isn't it. Not because of the roughness, but just the core concept was just way too complicated, way too involved. Yeah, like, it just didn't feel good. And so that really, that moment of getting in the game for the first time to really give you an honest answer was extremely valuable for us, because once when you're creating something that people are embodied in, you really do have to feel it to really get it, and to feel like somebody might enjoy this, which is very different than seeing it on a PowerPoint and seeing it in Figma and being like, oh, that looks cool. But if it doesn't feel good, then it's an instant no. And so we knew that from just trying it off the bat, which set us on a completely different path. We had to really get back to the drawing board and get to another core concept that was in a playable build, which then felt a lot better. And it was nice to have had that first visceral feeling of like, definitely no, to like, probably yes. So yeah, I'd say for anybody building in any, you have to really building in any space, it's encountering the game in its earliest state, or encountering the product in its earliest state in a way that your users will, and giving a very authentic, like, as best you can. I mean, it's hard to not have bias, but be as honest as you can with how you feel in that moment, because it'll ultimately, your gut will go a long way.
100%, especially when it either is or isn't, and your gut will tell you what either way.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about as someone who's definitely built some prototype experiences in VR, and you get in there and you're like, this is not exactly what I was thinking, or it's behaving in a really weird way. But I'm curious. So, past, present, what about the future of disc? What is something that you would like to see iterate on as something intentional in the future?
Yeah. No, yeah. So we definitely feel great about the core concept. It's now how does the core concept expand into an ecosystem in a universe that is growing intentionally, right? And is attracting a wider global audience over time. That's going to be the challenge over the next while is
Mhm,
really figuring out this sort of innovation path and iteration path towards something more expansive and more complete. The game itself today is demonstrative of like a very what we feel is a very strong core concept,
mhm,
and it's intentionally pretty limited. We didn't want to go to market with too much. We wanted to go to market with something that really represented what we're going for, but
mhm,
leaving a ton of room for iteration. And that gets back to our community strategy. As people download the game, there will be more feedback that we can then implement into the game development that expands it in a way that can feel confident in. And ultimately, there will be some invention on behalf of our users. We'll have to take the insights and really distill it and understand like what does it all mean in terms of what we can practically deliver on and what we really feel good about that will be differentiated, unique, valuable for our particular product. And that's what we're excited about that, right? Like the beauty of having a digital product like this is it can constantly be evolving and there is constant iteration that is baked into the strategy. And so it's a little bit unknown, but really where our North Star is we do see this longer term becoming a sport that is recognized globally in some fashion. Like we would love to be part of the IOC's developing esports Olympic series that they're putting together. We really love
yeah.
that concept of global virtual sport with some type of body that validates it and gives you a reason to improve your game and practice and do all the things that people do with traditional physical sports but in a virtual context, all the while moving and good, getting the good blood flow and all the things that come with movements. Yeah, that's our North Star, but we're gonna have to chip away and build over time to get there.
This is exciting for me to hear because when I was at Augmented World Expo in Long Beach, which is a conference that I go to every year, I got to hear Vicky Dobbs speak. She's the VP of Immersive at Lucasfilms, and she talked about what they're doing in their lab to build these experiences that transcend not just to VR, but into AR as well. And so they're using multimodality to engage the audience and the user, but not just that, they're building these storyline experiences that can extend months and years,
Cool.
which is wild to me. So I love this intersection of experience that is coming to the forefront here, and that, companies are really looking at how do we be a gold standard for this type of experience. But what I love most about that is that it's a wild west, which is great. It's a new frontier, but which means there's a lot of opportunity to do cool things that haven't been done yet.
Totally. Totally. And then when you have nice IP to work with, established IP, you have a
Yeah,
nice group of people who are like dying to live in that world, which is really nice. That's a nice to have.
abso-freaking-lutely.
But it's cool. It's like it's part of what the I think the medium offers. It's the ability to feel as close to being there as you could given the constraints of today's technology. And I'm super I mean it's really exciting to see this space evolving and the direction that I'm very compelled by and what I think is a really net positive for the world is this idea of a being physically active with like this sort of XR AR vision of being in the real world with these technologies. I think can unlock a ton of a physical just movement in general, which I think is going to be an amazing opportunity potentially for us down the line. But more importantly, getting away from the looking down, kind of hunched over stuff and like eyes up, looking at the world. And standing and being physically embodied in your physical self to me is something that this technology does in a lot leagues better than other forms of technology. So yeah, lightsaber battles could be
I
fun.
love that. Standing embodied in like your natural self. I think that is a huge win right there. Cause I see, I mean, I see this natural evolution that we're headed towards where we're morphing into shrimps that are just like on our computers all day, and that's
Right.
not healthy.
Yeah, hunch. No, yeah, and it's more natural. I think what's the really, I think just zooming out, the progression that I'm seeing and what I'm excited about is this balance between technology and humanness and being natural in the world with the augmented experience that technology can provide. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. I mean, we're excited to be part of the journey, and Disc is a first step in that direction. We're super excited to see where it takes us, and it feels like this is going to be a much bigger world in the coming years. So as it grows, we'll grow with it.
Absolutely. That's the natural progression. And I'm curious, so if someone has a MetaQuest headset at home, can they go into the App Store and search for a disc to find this? How do they get to it?
Yeah, for sure. So just type in Disc, DISC on the MetaQuest App Store, download, get in there. It's a free game. So download for free, get playing, get moving. We have some pretty cool bot experience. You can play live versus real people. And if you want to jump into our Discord, just go to disc.asics.com. There are two links there, one to Quest, one to our Discord. Pretty straightforward. And if you're just looking to hang out and chill with our people in Discord, that's cool too. So just good vibes.
I love that. Thank you. And I'll be sure to link that in the show notes. That way, if someone's interested, they can just immediately go to that link and find more information about DISC on ASIC's website. But I feel like this has been an amazing conversation, Joe, and I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to share more about DISC and more about ASICs and the direction of innovation and emerging technologies. It's so refreshing to hear from you and your team of what is possible and what is happening. And I just can't celebrate that enough as an innovator and a futurist and someone that's over here in Oklahoma. So
Yeah.
bravo to you and thank you for all the work that you and your team do.
Thank you, Ashley. And thank you for the platform and being able to speak about this to your people.
Of
Really
course, of
appreciate you.
course. Thank you. Thank you. Well, so we've talked about the Disc website and the Discord, but for those that are listening that want to follow along on these adventures, maybe follow you, follow ASICS, where can they go to find more information?
Yeah, yeah. I would say those two links. Download the game on Quest, go to our website to join our Discord. That's it. We've kept it really
Easy.
simple. We don't want to spread ourselves too thin. Really like these very two specific things, and we're there. So we're ready for you when you're ready to come in. And yeah, we're excited to see you.
Well, I can't wait to check it out myself. I will be joining that Discord server, which I love Discord servers. I think it's a really good space, definitely for feedback, to see what others are doing, to feel connected in a community, even if you're not physically connected to them. That's the beauty of technology. We can be anywhere we want to.
Yes, we will take all the feedback we can get. Dude,
Awesome.
we're early, so more. We'll take the fire hose.
Feedback is a gift. That's my philosophy.
Yes, constructive criticism. That's what we're focused on.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for your time. And I cannot wait to see what disc goes to next and becomes. And thank you again.
Thank you, Ashley.